If you are thinking about retiring or settling down long-term in Florida, stop and watch this video right now. The city once dubbed America's retirement paradise is now at risk of becoming a living hell on earth. In just the past 3 years, the number of homeless people in Florida has increased by more than 34%. But these are not just soulless numbers. Those are thousands of people who once had a home to return to, once had a future to hope for, now having to live under bridges, in old dilapidated cars, or queuing for charity meals under the scorching sun of the southern United States. The most frightening thing is, this is no longer a warning for the distant future. The crisis is creeping through every neighborhood, gnawing at every community like a disease silently eroding from within. In today's video, we will unveil a heartbreaking reality unfolding in the heart of Florida, where some cities are literally collapsing, like ghost towns existing in real life. Don't take your eyes off the video, because the first city at risk of collapse in Florida, in the third item, might be the city you are living in. There was a time when Florida was a gentle reward for those who had endured all the years of hardship. After decades of working in the factories of Detroit, night shifts in New York, or enduring the snowy winters in Ohio, people dream of a small house by the sea. People call Florida by many names: the land of sunshine, the retirement paradise, a place to start over, even if you're nearing the end of your journey. But for millions of Americans who set foot here in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, Florida resembled a Disneyland for the elderly. There are no castles or fireworks, but there are quiet residential areas, dance halls every Saturday, golf courses stretching under palm trees, and leisurely afternoons by the beach, where grandparents walk hand in hand, as if time here no longer mattered. That used to be a world where the elderly were not seen as a burden. Everyone has a home to return to, and a community to belong to, where your name is still remembered, and your presence is still cherished. Not just retirees. Many young families also flock here, bringing with them the hope of raising their children in the sunshine, among the palm trees and tranquility. Florida once opened its doors to everyone, whether you were rich or poor, as long as you believed you deserved a new beginning. But then those gates began to close, silently, slowly, yet mercilessly. There was no alarm sound, just each street becoming more expensive, each house slipping out of reach, each old neighborhood disappearing behind high fences and indefinite for lease signs. And the place that used to be the Disneyland for the elderly is now becoming a place where they sleep in tents by the roadside. Just a fence separates them from the golf course, but a whole generation away from the old dream. Florida, the retirement paradise, is gradually turning into a homeless hell. No longer a dream paradise, the shattered dreams built in Florida are breaking apart, piece by piece. This state is gradually turning into an inescapable nightmare, where the elderly have to sleep in cars, the young have to live in tents, and children have to line up for a meal under the scorching summer heat. The homelessness situation in Florida is no longer just an issue for the big cities. It has become a widespread humanitarian crisis across the state. According to the latest statistics, Florida has over 31,000 homeless people. And what is even more concerning is that nearly 40% of them are elderly and children, the most vulnerable groups in society. It is heartbreaking that children have to grow up in homelessness, learning survival skills instead of literacy, nurturing their childhood with dangers that no one protects them from. And the elderly, who should have been able to live in peace after a lifetime of hard work, now have to wander the streets, relying on meager pensions or the compassion of passers-by to get by each day. Florida, once promised as a paradise for all generations, is now leaving its most vulnerable people adrift like beach sand after each wave. And if children and the elderly are no longer protected, then who among us is truly safe? But this tragedy doesn't stop there. The homeless in Florida are no longer just associated with unemployment or illness, as many people mistakenly believe. More and more young people and workers, even those with stable jobs and regular incomes, cannot escape the risk of losing their homes. They are not lazy. They simply cannot keep up with the terrifying pace of inflation in an economy that is leaving the poor behind. The average income of Floridians is around $70,000 per year, which sounds reasonable. But ask yourself, How can one make ends meet when a one-bedroom apartment in Tampa or Miami consumes more than 80% of retirement income, not to mention food, utilities and medicine, all of which are skyrocketing? No longer the bright American dream. Florida now resembles a lavish party that only those with an invitation can attend. Those who once dreamed of this place, the elderly, immigrants, wage workers, are being pushed back, like unwelcome guests at a party they once believed they were invited to. And the scariest thing is, Florida did not collapse overnight. It collapsed quietly, little by little, like the sunset fading after years of brilliance. Every day that passes, another person loses their home, another family shattered, another shattered dream. If even paradise can crumble like that, then what can we, those who once dreamed of a place to rest after a lifetime of dedication, still rely on? There are places that were once hailed as symbols of the American dream under the tropical sun, now becoming embodiments of a collective nightmare. In Florida, Miami, Tampa, Orlando, and a few other areas, names that once evoked images of blue seas, amusement parks, bright lights, and leisurely retirement, are gradually transforming into real-life ghost towns. Along the boulevards that once echoed with music and neon lights are rows of makeshift tents, patched together from nylon tarps and scraps salvaged from landfills. No longer a dream neighborhood, but a refuge for those who once had stable lives. Old cars become bedrooms, parks become kitchens, and overpasses become shelters against the early summer rains. Miami-Dade currently records nearly 3,800 homeless individuals, and Tampa and Orlando are not exempt from the cycle. But behind those numbers are lives in turmoil. The elderly who have paid taxes their whole lives now having to beg for each meal. The single mother unable to afford homeowners insurance after a summer storm. The children denied Medicare just when they need treatment the most. Florida does not just have a housing problem. It is a comprehensive crisis, lacking both an insurance system, financial support, and legal counsel. Many people are unaware that they may qualify for free legal assistance to appeal an eviction order, and this unfortunate situation has pushed them out of the loop. Home insurance costs in Florida have also skyrocketed. Many claims are denied due to minor contract errors, resulting in a lifetime's worth of assets being swept away in a storm. Such stories are not uncommon, and they make those who once believed they had a secure future begin to feel anxious. If insurance doesn't pay, if Medicare isn't enough, if 401k doesn't keep up with rent, then what do I have to hold on to? The state of Florida has spent $30 million to help cities enact laws and provide mental health treatment services to support the homeless. But many local officials believe this amount is just a drop in the bucket. The largest allocation for each district is only $600,000, too little to manage an entire community that is collapsing day by day. The police in Tampa admit that they are having to manage social crises more than crime. Small businesses are losing customers, middle-class residents are retreating from the city center, and the city is losing its very heart, the community. Florida was once the Disneyland for the elderly. But today, the streets that were once filled with laughter are gradually becoming as desolate as post-apocalyptic movie sets. And if a place once built for a peaceful old age can be swallowed up like that, then who will be next when the last lifeline, from home insurance to Medicare, starts to sink? There was a time when people believed that just working hard, saving for a 401k, paying taxes, and having insurance was enough to enjoy a comfortable retirement. But today, in Florida, even those who have done everything right are facing the prospect of losing their homes. The skyrocketing rental prices are the most serious crack in the already fragile wall of the welfare system. In Tampa, Orlando, Miami, a one-bedroom apartment currently rents for an average of $1,800 to $2,300 per month. Meanwhile, the average retirement income for the elderly is only around $1,200 per month. Without Medicare subsidies or housing support programs, the survival equation becomes nearly impossible to solve. Many elderly people are still in debt due to medical expenses not fully covered by insurance. A $400 bill for blood pressure medication is not covered by Medicare. An emergency call, but the ambulance isn't fully covered. Small amounts, piling up, and pushing them to the brink. Not a few people had specific retirement plans, but just a $300 increase in rent each month. A home insurance policy denied due to lack of regular maintenance or an unexpected maintenance cost, all of which could force them to leave the only home they ever owned. Even things that used to be very ordinary, a meal out, a health checkup, a visit to the grandkids, are now weighed down to the last penny. Many elderly people have to choose between buying medicine or paying for electricity, while a wave of young families are accepting moving in together or relocating out of state. The Florida market may still be bustling with investments and tourism, but the residents are truly being pushed to the sidelines of that party. A few support policies have been rolled out, such as rent vouchers, food discounts, or energy subsidies. But with thousands of people waiting in line and tens of thousands more unaware of these programs, the support still feels like a thin raincoat in a Category 5 storm. Many people working 2 jobs still can't afford rent, let alone save for home insurance, retirement funds, or long-term healthcare costs. They are not poor in the sense of not trying. They are simply swept away by an economy where everything, from housing to safety, comes at a price beyond their means. And when even those with a clear retirement planning path can no longer keep their homes, when Medicare is no longer a safety net and legal services are out of reach, can we really believe that an unexpected bill won't turn us into the next homeless person? There is one thing that many people find hard to believe when they hear it for the first time. In Florida, you can work full-time and still have to sleep in your car. They are called working homeless, people who have jobs, have a schedule to go to work every morning, have a paycheck every month, but have no home to return to. They are not unemployed. It's just that the cost of living has now become too high for them to afford. The cost of living in Florida has spiraled out of control. Not just rent. Car insurance, utility bills, food, medicine, all have skyrocketed, while wages remain stagnant. Many people carry 2 jobs on their shoulders, but still have to hide the fact that they sleep in their cars or public restrooms to avoid losing face with their colleagues. The bitter truth is that working people do not receive support because they earn too much to qualify. They cannot access subsidized housing, not eligible for food stamps, no free legal advice when evicted from their homes because their paychecks clearly show an income, just enough to disqualify them from assistance. And so, they are left stranded between 2 worlds. Not poor enough to receive help, not wealthy enough to live comfortably. This is not just a policy gap, it is a humanitarian gap. Florida is witnessing a generation of workers who are exhausted, depleted, and invisible right within the very society they serve. Not because they don't work, but because working is no longer enough to live. So if hard work, once seen as the ticket to a stable life, no longer even brings a roof over our heads, what else can keep us from falling into that very scenario? In Florida, you don't need to lose your job or get divorced to become homeless. Just pay your taxes on time. It may sound ironic, but that is the reality that thousands of residents in this state are facing. Property taxes are skyrocketing. Housing insurance tax, vehicle tax, small business tax, all of these weigh heavily on the shoulders of those who are accustomed to a stable standard of living. And the most ironic thing? Many elderly people find themselves in dire straits simply because they try to follow the law. A retiree in Fort Lauderdale shared, "I pay all the bills, property taxes, vehicle taxes, health insurance, but every year the numbers keep going up." The dream of a peaceful retirement life is being taxed to the brink. According to statistics, while the average annual income in Florida is around $70,000, property taxes have increased by more than 45% in some coastal areas over the past 5 years. At the same time, home insurance costs have doubled, especially for apartments near hurricane-prone areas. People cannot sell their homes because the market is unstable, nor do they have enough money to keep them. They are stuck in their own properties. At non-profit tax advisory centers, Hundreds of elderly people seek guidance each week, not to evade taxes, but to find ways to survive the tax season. Some financial organizations have started offering retirement tax planning services, but at a price that is anything but cheap. A cruel irony for those who just want guidance to avoid falling out of their homes. In fact, there are people who dare not take on extra hours or additional retirement benefits, because just exceeding a very small income threshold will result in losing all Medicare subsidies or housing vouchers, and they will have to bear the full cost of skyrocketing medical expenses each week. You did the right thing. You have paid taxes. You have dedicated yourself. But now, the dream of a peaceful old age is being traded by the tax system into a nightmare. So people are starting to wonder, if paying taxes fully is no longer a ticket to a stable life, what guarantees that our final years won't be pushed to the sidelines, just like the bills that are silently pushing others into the darkness? Do you remember when people said that if everything goes wrong, there will always be a system to support you? In Florida, more and more people are discovering the system is no longer there. Or if it exists, it is cracked, shattered, and too small to catch anyone who is falling. The state has spent $30 million to support cities in enacting laws, providing mental health treatment services, and recovering from mental health issues for the homeless. It sounds like a large amount, but with nearly 30 districts, each receiving less than $600,000 USD, while the cost of operating a mobile health station alone consumes more than half of that, this support is like putting a band-aid on a festering wound. The system is not lacking in laws, not lacking in programs, but there is a lack of practical accessibility, especially for the elderly and the homeless who do not have phones, internet, or means of transportation. Online registration forms, QR codes, government apps, all have become luxuries for those who are just trying to survive each night. Some charitable organizations have begun using digital community recovery platforms, providing free consultation stations at churches, libraries, or bus stops, where the elderly can receive help filling out forms, seeking medical assistance, or reporting abuse. But these initiatives are still just a glimmer of light in a city gradually sinking into darkness. The rift is not just a crack in the budget or policy, it is a fracture in the people's trust, that even if they fall, the system will still be there to catch them. And when that trust shatters, it is precisely those who once contributed, who once followed the law, who once hoped, now have to sleep under the overpass, with a Medicare card in their pocket. And if the system can't save them, then who will be able to save us when our turn comes? They used to be neighbors. They used to grill meat together in the backyard, send Christmas cards every year, and watch each other's houses during the holidays. But now, the gates in front of their houses are locked forever, and the streets that once echoed with the laughter of playing children are now barren, filled only with for sale signs, eviction notices, or worse, abandoned houses covered in mold. Florida is not just losing homes for the poor, it is losing the very soul of the community. In neighborhoods like Pine Hills in Orlando or Little Haiti in Miami, you will see a bitter paradox. Families who have lived here for decades have left or been pushed out, while the old houses are being sold for $500,000. And when the old residents are gone, the invisible threads of the community also break apart. The elderly live in isolation. Young people are migrating. Community centers are budget cut. Libraries no longer have evening hours, and communal meals, once occasions for neighbors to gather, share apple pie, or simply exchange smiles, now exist only in memory. Community, once the solid foundation supporting America, is now fracturing, not due to a lack of humanity, but because too many people are forced to look after themselves first. And if a city no longer has a place to gather, no longer has a reason to trust, no longer has the bonds connecting people, then is it still a community, or just a collection of individuals trying to survive on their own? They came to Florida with a dream, and then quietly left in silence. Not because they didn't try, but because this promised land has gradually become unlivable for ordinary people. When salaries can't keep up with rent, when utility bills eat away at every penny of retirement benefits, and when isolation, instability, and high costs seep into every corner, Even the most resilient must choose, stay and wear themselves out, or leave in hopes of finding the simple life of yesteryear. From Orlando to Miami, then Jacksonville, a silent wave is rising, not of seawater, but of cars packed with belongings leaving the state. The elderly are returning to their roots in the Midwest, where they have family and a more manageable cost of living. Young people are flocking to states like North Carolina, Tennessee, or even the northern border region to start anew. Many people who once came to Florida in search of a retirement paradise now have to reluctantly rent small apartments in poor towns, just to live near a church, a low-cost medical clinic, or a community they can call their own. And local businesses are also witnessing the repercussions of this wave. Regular customers disappear. Family-owned stores, which have thrived thanks to the long-standing community, have to close down. The once vibrant main streets are now as silent as deserted train stations, where the last train has departed. For the first time in nearly a decade, Florida has seen more people leaving than new immigrants in many of its major metropolitan areas. A painful reversal for the state that once topped the list of ideal retirement destinations. Although some resettlement programs, relocation assistance, and senior connection centers have been implemented, most of those leaving receive no support at all. They manage on their own, arrange everything themselves, and carry in their hearts a sense of regret that the place once called the Disneyland for the elderly no longer has room for them. So, if an entire generation is leaving what was once the symbol of the American dream, will that dream survive? Or has it become just an echo of the past? Florida used to be a symbol of aspiration, a leisurely retirement, warm winters, and a peaceful life by the blue sea. But now, that dream is wavering as more and more people cannot find a foothold, even just a small corner to lay their heads down at night. From rooftops vanishing in the wave of soaring prices, to the fracturing of communities, and fear gradually replacing hope. All of this raises a question greater than the individual, greater than a state. If a place once considered a paradise can no longer care for the elderly, workers, and the next generation, is there anywhere in America that is truly safe to dream of a simple, kind life? Are you witnessing something similar where you live? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel and stay updated with our latest videos. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. This video is created to analyze and reflect a real slice of life in Los Angeles, with the aim of sparking reflection and positive dialogue within the community. All information, images, and data are illustrative, cited from publicly available and reliable sources. We do not hold any individual or organization responsible, nor do we draw absolute conclusions. Viewers are encouraged to approach the content with an open mind and continue exploring from various perspectives.